Hey guys, it's Forsaken Reality here with the 52nd episode of the multiplayer RPG tutorial series. In this one, we're going to be looking into our AI behavior trees, and we're going to look into setting those up. We looked into them in the past for our dialogue system, but now we're going to be using them for our AI movement and attacking and fleeing and trolling and everything good like that, basically. So we're in this first one, we're going to look into setting up our behavior tree, and we're moving into setting up our first task, which will be randomly roaming AI. And then we'll move into things like our AI looking at the player and AI attacking and different things like that to expand our AI system and show you how it's used. So basically in this one we'll be setting up this system. We'll also need to set up an animation blueprint specific for AI. And I'll also be showing you how useful it was to create our combat component earlier on and how it can be used with our AI to prevent us from having to recreate too many things. Because basically with our combat component, we'll have access to everything from our stance, and with our stance we can determine what stance we're in depending on the weapon that's equipped and different things like that. And we'll also look into maybe setting up the character component so it'll work with our AI, so we have access to all the default variables like running and different things like that. If you haven't already, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button so you get notified when I upload new videos. And without further ado, we will get into setting up this system. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to move my test project out of the way here. And I'm going to actually organize my behavior tree a little bit. So I'm going to open up, this is why I like to have this drop down over here like this. It's just easier to access both areas, I find. So I'm going to have my AI, and in here I'm going to, first thing I'm going to do is rename this behavior trees, or actually I already have it in here. I'm just going to rename this to, I might just keep the naming like that, dialogue behavior trees. Or actually I'll just name it to dialogue system. And first I'm going to fix up redirector since I renamed that. Go to my behavior tree, grab this dialogue system folder inside the behavior tree folder, and I'm going to put it in my AI folder. Fix up redirectors. And now I can delete this behavior tree folder. And in my blueprints, the dialogue system is now there. I'm going to create a new folder in here. AI behavior, and that's going to handle everything to do with our movement and basically our behavior tree that's not our dialogue system. So in here we're going to create a new artificial intelligence, and this is going to be a behavior tree. ET for behavior tree, AI behavior tree. Just gonna name it that. You can name it whatever you like to, so it might make more sense to you. Blackboard. And the AI behavior blackboard. And I'm going to open these up. And in my behavior tree, first thing I'm going to do is make sure my AI behavior blackboard is here. And you'll see, I'll also be able to see your dialogue ones. Just going to make sure not to select that one. And in the blackboard, you can select it right here. Save this, close it. Just going to save that as well. We are going to need a key. And the key we're going to add is for the location. So we're going to use this to set a random location to move to when we're roaming. And it'll be used for other location things as well. But right now that's what we're going to be using it for. So now we have our location. And we have our self reference. That's the reference to AI, and we're gonna need this for later, but not for now. Actually gonna delete this location and re-add it just so it's a little more organized. We have our location, and this is gonna be a reference to the enemy, so like the player, or if we have AI versus AI, that'll be basically anything the AI is fighting. But we won't be using that right yet. And right now we're just using a location. Okay, so now we have our this set up. We can go into our behavior tree. And I'm just going to drag down and create a sequence. And from here, a sequence works basically. There's a few different ones you can get. There's a selector, which is like more for like basically it looks for true or false. A sequence will allow you to play through your animations, and it'll allow you to play through everything in the sequence. So basically we'll have our move to, and that will be the location, and it also depends on the order here. So and wait. So you notice that when I move this on the other side, there's a one that adjusts here, but when I put it here, it's now adjusted to here. So when it comes into the sequence, it'll play through this and keep looping through it until it's told to stop, basically. We have our move to location, but we actually aren't telling it a location to do, and that's where our tasks come in handy. So we want to make a task that gets a random location around the AI and sets that to the location in our Blackboard. So in order to do that, we can click New Task, BTT Task Blueprint Base. That's the one for creating a new task and not selecting one of your currently made tasks. And in here, we want to get our function for receive execute AI. This runs when the event when we put the task in here, this will run right here. I can just compile that and save and drag down, and we have our tasks list. And we're actually just gonna name this tasks folder. Move that in there. RPG tutorial, AI behavior tasks. It's just going to get random location because that's all it's doing is getting a random location around the AI. Now we're going to want to get the location of our control pawn. So basically our AI that's using the behavior tree at this point in time. So you want to get actor location and get random reachable point in radius. So that'll get a random point within a radius around the AI. And we're going to promote this to a variable. And that's just going to be our radius. And this will be instance editable, so we can edit it in our behavior tree or anywhere else we would need to. And from random location, we will drag out, or actually we're going, yeah, we can do that, but we're going to need to set Blackboard value, and we're going to want a vector. If you dragged out of here and you typed in set Blackboard value, you get specifically the vector value. And we're going to plug this in, and that's going to send a vector value to our Blackboard. And that's going to be for the radius and the actor location, and a random location in the radius, basically. We're going to want to promote this key to a variable. I'll just name that BB key for Blackboard key. Slowly move that down just to make some room, make it look a little neater. And we also want to finish execute, which will finish the task. You want one of these in all of your tasks when a task is finishing. And once you have your task finished here, this has to be instance editable as well. We're going to check if our control pawn is valid. Should always be valid, but just gonna check that. Oops. Save. And I'm gonna comment this. Get a random location within the radius set around the AI. And now we can go back to our behavior tree, and from our sequence, notice that the root is your blackboard. So in our sequence, we can drag it up here, go to our tasks, and get our random location task. Task we just created. The key is going to be the location, and the radius we can set a default value to 1,000. Or whatever value you want. Save, and that'll just fill in the default value there. So you gotta make sure the order is correct here. So if we put this here, it will try to move to it before it gets the location. So now it'll get the random location. It'll run through this to get the active location and a random radius around that. It'll send the value to the blackboard, and it will finish. And then once it gets here, our blackboard key is set to the location. So now the location value is being set. And from here, the value numbers change. We're going to move to location that we did, the location value that we just set. And then we're going to wait 5 seconds, and it's going to replay this every 5 seconds. And we can also set a random deviation, which will be like, so now within every time it runs, it could be as low as 2 seconds, I believe, and it could be it could add up to 5 seconds. So it's adding or subtracting up to 3 seconds. If you read that right there, that's what that means. And I'm just gonna organize that a little more, and that's our first behavior for getting a random location. And this one, we can rename the sequence here. Move to random location, because the way it's going to work is there's going to be multiple sequences and stuff that you can enter into. So we'll have our move to random location, which this one can run into. And for now, I'll actually just put that straight down so it looks proper. So now that we have this set up, we can go into our AI. I'm going to go into my blueprints. I'm actually going to take my AI controller and put that in my AI folder. Except redirectors and save. And I'm just going to delete this controllers folder. And in the controller, we can delete the event tick. And we're going to, which has authority. And if it has authority, run behavior tree. And the behavior tree we're going to run is our AI behavior tree. So basically it's going to run the AI behavior tree on begin play. And I believe that we need to actually replace these AI in the world. So I'm just going to delete these guys. And they seem to not be moving. One moment. Yeah, I just completely forgot that I actually forgot to add navigation to my level. So you need navigation in your level. We'll actually look into navigation invokers later on. which will basically create the navigation around the AI rather than generating the navigation. If you have a massive world, it takes a while to generate that, but when you can regenerate it just around the AI itself. But for now, I'm just going to set the bounds for our navigation. And if you click P, you can actually see the areas that your navigation is covering, and you can watch your navigation actually build. It takes a longer time. If you have a larger map, the larger your map gets, the longer it takes, which is why if you set it up properly, you only need to rebuild it once, and you can use navigation invokers, which we will look into, to just build the navigation around the AI itself. They're really useful. So I'm going to click P to get rid of that. And now I believe, yes, and there we go. Our AI are walking around, but they're not actually playing any animations yet. And that's because our animation blueprint is referencing our master character specifically. So we're going to need to create a new animation blueprint. There's another way we could do that. We could use an interface to do all of our character references, but I think it would be better because we're going to want to do things specific to our AI that our character won't do, and vice versa. That'll just look a lot cleaner. Our AI have their own animation blueprint. But I'm actually going to end this video here because that's going to take a few minutes to finish up, and we'll do that in the next video and continue on with our AI. Basically, for now, we have our AI, and until we set up our animation blueprint that's not referencing our character, we will be referencing our character. Our targeting system should work and follow the AI properly. Everything else should work. If you found this video helpful and want to see more, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe button so you don't miss out on any new tutorial video uploads. You'll get notified, basically, of any new uploads. If you have any questions, suggestions, or comments, feel free to leave those in the comments section below or join my community Discord server using the link in the description. Thanks, and I'll see you all in the next episode.